Well, hello. Welcome to Intentional Conversations with Robin May and friends. I'm super excited that you are here. If this is your first time, welcome. I'm super excited that you're going to spend this time with me. I am so glad to have you. Now, if you are a returning friend, I am just thankful that you are on this journey with me. I really enjoy doing the podcast and giving you some real conversation with real women on real topics. Coming up, I'm having a conversation on your money, honey, with my friend Dar'shun Kendricks. She's going to help us get our mind right. But before we get into it, if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please subscribe. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcast app, please make sure to like and to review and to subscribe even there. Comment, share, let me know that you are here. It really helps me to know that you are enjoying this content, and it helps move it up the algorithm so other people can find out all about what we're talking about over here. All right, y'all, that's it. Let's head on over to this conversation. Hey friend, I'm Robin May, and a few of the professional hats that I wear includes being a transformational speaker, a life coach, and a licensed therapist. And personally, well, I'm a wife, a mommy to 3 girls, and a pastor's wife, just to name a few. Girl, I'm over here doing all the things while trying to stay in shape and keep my skin clear. But the truth is, I don't want to be known for being busy. I think that's a scheme that somebody set up. No, I want to be known for living a life that is in perfect alignment with what God intended, and I want to help you do the same. So it's with that in mind, I'd like to welcome you right here to Intentional Conversations with Robin May and friends. Over here, we're creating a safe space to have real conversations with real women on real topics. This is a judgment-free zone where we can be vulnerable and honest and curious about our lives so that we can elevate not just what we do, but who we are. So if any of that resonates with you, again, welcome to our safe space. This is Intentional Conversations with Robin May and friends. Well, ladies, we are back with a brand new series, and this series is called Money Matters, or, I'm thinking about calling it Mind Your Money. So whatever you see on the flyer is what the title our series is. And over the next 3 or so weeks, I am going to have women that I personally trust to come on and have this conversation. And first up is my sorority sister, my friend, a transformer. We call the members of our church. If you're watching this and you didn't know, my husband and I pastor a church called Transforming Faith Church. Our members are called Transformers, and my sis is a transformer. My girl, Dar'shun. Welcome, Dar'shun.
Hey, First Lady Soror.
I'm so excited that you are here. And listen, as I told you, interviewed you, even though this is not an interview, this is a conversation, but we've had this money conversation many times. And this is just a free-flowing conversation. I'm about to be transparent about something, but before I do, I want you to tell the people a little bit about you because you are that girl. I need you to know you are that girl. You wear several different hats. So talk to the people a little bit about what you do for a living in your real job, and then how you serve the community.
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me. So my day job, as I call it, is as a corporate securities attorney slash investment advisor representative. So that's a fancy way of saying that I work with companies nationwide to help them raise billions of dollars in private investment capital. It's something I'm really, really passionate about. I think it's a way towards generational wealth is through the investment in private business track. And as an investment advisor, I advise a lot of venture capital and private equity funds on mergers and acquisitions and other complex transactions like that. And I also have a millionaire mastermind group, which I know we'll talk about a little later.
Yes.
So that is the day job. I also do some business coaching as well to get founders investor ready. So I do a lot of things, but I like to do it. And I have the pleasure of serving you and Pastor May in the Georgia House of Representatives for my going into my 8th term. So
Girl, can you believe you have been doing this that
I know.
long?
No, I can't.
And for those who are local to our area, what areas do you serve? Who's under your jurisdiction? Is that the word?
So I have East DeKalb, South Gwinnett, and North Rockdale County, so close to Stonecrest Mall, and then going 124 up and through Snellville. So parts of my new district do include the city of Snellville. I don't have any of the actual city of Lithonia or Stone Mountain, but everything that is east and sort of north of the city of Lithonia and Stonecrest, I have in my district. So 60,000 Georgians, you included. So it's been a pleasure.
Yes. Now, okay, so when you talked about the securities work you do, first of all, Dar'shun, as you were saying, it's literally like you're speaking a foreign language to me. So when you
Oh
were talking
no.
about the acquisitions and all that good stuff, it's not going to be foreign language for because a shift has happened. I'm about to get my mind right.
Yes.
But where does your legal work come into? Because you're a lawyer as well, or is that part of that?
Yeah, so it's part of that. So usually in the industry, the type of law that I do is called securities law
Okay.
because securities deals with stocks, bonds, pensions. It's all under the
Okay.
category of securities lawyer. But usually when I'm talking to lay people or people that are not familiar with it, I would just say I'm a capital raising lawyer. That's sort of the
Okay.
easiest way to say it. But the
Okay.
official
Okay.
term
That
is
makes
securities
sense.
lawyer. Yeah.
So you're not in the courtroom
No.
doing, you're
Nope.
not that
Nope.
lawyer. Okay.
Nope.
You down there
I
with the pen and papers with
Yes, I spend a
contracts.
lot of time on the phone and a lot of time on the computer. I never go to court. If you see me in court, it's because I did something terribly wrong. I am never
And
in
that's
court.
not happening. Yes.
That's not gonna
Okay.
happen.
Okay. So I'm curious about this. So you graduated from college. What was your degree? I'm going somewhere with this. What was your degree and how did you find your way into this world?
So I went to Oglethorpe University, and my undergrad was in political science. No surprise there, and
Right.
communications. So I was a double major, and I knew I wanted to go to law school because what else do you do with a political science liberal degree? So
Right.
I went. So I knew I was going to go into law school, and at law school they teach you to be litigators. So I don't know why they do this, but like 90% of law school is they teach you how to litigate, how to speak in public, how to
Mhm.
cross-examine, how to approach a bench. And I knew I never wanted to do that. Like I'm just not that person. I knew I wanted to be in the back and doing deals. That's what I love to do.
Yes.
And so I took one securities law class called securities enforcement, fell
Mhm.
in love with securities law, and took one more class. But they only offered two classes in the entire
Wow.
years that I was there. And so I took some classes at the MBA school at UGA, fell in love with the business portion of it. So I knew I wanted to go get an MBA and then started my own club. I'm one of those people, if you give me lemons, I'll make lemonade. So I started my own
Yes.
club called the Business Legal Society. It still exists today at UGA Law. But I was the founding member, and is focused on law students who want to go into transactional law and don't want to be litigators.
Okay. Okay. This is crazy. All right. So, what's my transparent statement? This podcast, and those of you who are listening, if this is your first time listening, the heartbeat of intentional conversations with Robin May and friends is to do just this, have real conversations with real women on real topics. Money is one of those conversations that women need to have. We need to understand it. We need to create wealth. But the truth is, this topic is often taboo. Okay, so Dar'shun, I am at the office and you see the background, all this good stuff, but we just wrapped up real time at TFC a conversation about intimacy that starts with an S, capital S. I can't say this because it's going to be on YouTube and they be blocking stuff, but you know what I mean? Intimacy with a capital S. If I wasn't on YouTube, I will go ahead and say it. And that conversation also is taboo, right? Well, my transparent moment is out of all of the conversations that I have had on intentional conversations with Robin May and friends, this one is the most uncomfortable for me. This conversation is like, it's not that I don't want to talk about it, it's just that I don't have a lot of personal insight.
That's
I
okay.
don't
We're
have
gonna
a
get you
lot,
there. We're gonna
right?
get
I
you there.
don't have a lot to alpha to this conversation. That's why I am bringing all of you on to have it. And so, with that in mind, Dar'shun, tell me, why do you think women like me or other women who may be like me are hesitant about this topic? What have you found in all of the work you've done in helping people generate wealth and talk about money? What's the issue?
Well, I think it is like the big S issue, like you talked about, is so personal.
Yes.
And particularly this space when you talk about money, I wish I could say it's a judge-free zone, but it's not. People act differently based on what they perceive as the amount of money that you have, whether you even have it or not. It's just the
Yes.
perception of you having money, right? It's
Yes.
between, Oprah, your best friend.
My best friend.
If she came to TLC one Sunday, I'm sure you would have a seat up front for her, and I wouldn't blame you, right? It's just different
Yes.
levels and how people perceive you. And so that's why I think we have a problem talking about money, because if we don't have it, we feel some type of way, or we feel like we're going to be treated differently, or we feel like we're less than. So money is a very personal, unfortunately, not judge-free type of issue.
Well, I love that I love that transparency in that we want to say it's judgment free, but it isn't. And whether you have a lot, if you have a lot of money, there's a judgment that's associated with it. If you don't have a lot, there's a judgment that's associated with it. Because I know one of the things, Dar'shun, let me tell you this. One of the things that I've had to work really hard to do on social media, I am the queen of disclaimers. I'll say something and I'll give all these disclaimers. Well, if we go out of the country, or if we have some amazing trip, I have a desire to give some kind of disclaimer about it, because I don't want people to perceive a certain thing. So, I want to say something like, well, child, we went out of the country, but I want to add a but to it instead of just walking in that blessing. And so I agree. It's just something that comes associated with it. So there is this idea, and this is what I'm going to talk to all the women about. There's a concept called a scarcity mindset versus an abundant mindset. And you, my love, I know you walk in an abundant mindset. How do you define this scarcity mindset, and how do you encourage people to shift from it?
Yeah, so the scarcity mindset is this conception that essentially you have a pizza pie. So you get 8 slices in a pizza pie. I'm hungry right now, so that's why I have a pizza reference. Yes. But in a typical pizza pie, you get 8 slices. And so the scarcity mindset is if there's only 8 pieces of it. So if I give you 1 piece, I only have 7. If I give you 3 pieces, I only have 4. Not realizing that there is enough for all of us, and that what assets tend to do is recreate and reproduce each other. And so we're never going to be able to catch up to the abundance that is out there.
Wait, girl, wait. Dar'shun, you just dropped. I mean, you're not gonna run past that real quick. Dar'shun, so you, whatever it is, our gifting is, we talk it out so freely we don't understand. You just dropped a bar. Explain what you mean by that. You said the way assets work is that assets have a way of, am I adding this word, reproducing themselves? Explain that a little bit more.
Yeah, so I mean, taking from a finance standpoint, assets like your house or a business or things like that, they are not meant to stay stagnant. So if you buy a house at $100,000, if it's a true asset, the purpose of it is 30 years from now to be $250,000 or something like that. So assets continue to grow. And so one of the things that scarcity mindset doesn't understand is that when you have an asset like your mind, or like a business or a gift or something, if you're using that asset correctly, all it's going to do is continue to grow. And as your assets grow, and as things that are available in the world continue to move through time, they're going to continue to grow. Nothing stays stagnant. People think there's a finite number of X, but there's not a finite number of X, because nothing remains stagnant.
Right. So when you use the analogy though of the pizza, I love that analogy. You know, I'm very practical. So there are 8 slices of the pizza. If I give you two, then I'm saying, wait, I only have 6 left. There is a reality that there are 6 left. What would you say about that?
So the reality I would say, and I got this from from this analogy from somebody else, but the pizza analogy that they gave is okay, in reality, it might seem that there are only 6 pieces left if I gave you 2 pieces, but if you're truly believe in abundance in the world, you'll know that there is a pizza behind you that's cooking, or you'll understand
Yes.
that if you're making a pizza and you're giving 2 people one of it, you have made enough dough to make another pizza. So you have to think
Yes.
about it as there's always something in the background that is coming to replace that. Don't think of it as you only have one pizza. You might have one pizza
Absolutely.
of some particular thing, but there's still pizza that's cooking, in the background.
Girl, I love that. Oh, it really gave me chills. Okay. So I know I have so many things I got to ask you. Where do you think, or what happened for you that you have this mind towards abundance? Or have you all, maybe I should ask it that way. I just know you, but I'm gonna ask it like this. Have you always kind of had a mind toward abundance, or was this something you had to work towards?
I definitely had to work towards it. Even though I am not anywhere near a therapist, I believe that adults act out something from their childhood, right? And
Amen.
right. So okay, well, maybe I'm onto something, but particularly my childhood was one in which I didn't come from a lot of money. My parents did not have a lot of money, and they definitely made up for it in love. And so I grew up in a poverty mindset, sort of like, hey, hold on to every dollar, don't invest it, just hold on to it, right?
Yeah.
And I actually had that through college. Like most people, college students were scrapping and scrimping. I had like almost a 5-figure savings account by the time I graduated from college, because but
What?
but but that's not a good hold on, that's not necessarily a good thing though, because it is a poverty mindset when you only save and you don't invest. And I know that seems counterintuitive, but it
Wait, girl,
is.
you just dropped another bomb, ladies. I hope y'all are taking notes from this conversation. Dar'shun, it's a poverty mindset if you only hold on to it and you don't invest. Why?
Because whatever you hold on to, remember we were talking about assets growing. If
Yes.
I start with $10,000 and I don't invest it, I'm still only going to have
It's
$10,000.
so
You
good.
remember the story of the talents in the Bible, and
Yes,
what happened to the
yes,
person who just buried it and then gave the
yes,
principal back to
yes.
the master? He was like, "Well,
You
that's
ain't
not
doing
going to do
nothing
me
with
any
what I
good.
gave you.
That didn't do me any good." And he thought he was going to get a pat on the back because he didn't lose any money. But no,
Yes,
the scarcity mindset says I'm going to hold on to it, hold on to it, hold on to it, because I don't know what's going to happen, if there's going to be abundance in the future. And a abundance mindset will invest that money to make sure that it grows, because if I'm in the same spot, that is, sort of rule number one of having a scarcity mindset. If you're in the same exact place.
wait a minute, Dar'shun. I just got chills again because something about that really resonated with me. Hold on, hold on. So let me tell you what I'm hearing. So if I'm holding on to this. In college and I have at least 5 figures in the savings account, which, ma'am, Dar'shun, you know you're an anomaly, right? I mean,
You know, I know, I totally know.
okay, all right. So I got this. But when you just said, I'm holding on to it because I don't know where the abundance is going to come from in the future as people of faith. And most of you who are watching and listening to this conversation are women of faith. Then that's saying that not only are my resources finite, my God is finite.
Yep,
It's literally saying the God I serve only, oh, girl, I'm gonna preach. The God I serve only has so much.
yep,
And so I have to hold on to this because he doesn't have the ability, this big God I serve, to replace it. And that I
yep,
have to hold on to it. Girl,
yeah, that's exactly it.
That was good. Okay. So you said I had to work toward, and you were using that because I don't want people to misunderstand what you're saying. You're not saying that saving is a poverty mindset, is saving only, not being able to invest.
Correct. Holding on to it, always coming up with these examples in my head, like, what if this happens? What if this happens? And not investing at least a portion of that money. And so really the scarcity mindset changed for me when I started to get my MBA and really get into the venture capital and private equity space. Because what I realized, first of all, there is so much money in the world. And the way that the top 1% wealthy behave and the way that they move and the way that they act is so different than middle class. And
Mm-hmm.
I had to
Yes.
graduate up to middle class. Like I only became middle class in my mind when I got my law degree in my first
Yeah.
my first check.
Yeah.
I had to learn my way up into really an abundant mindset. And when I saw how much money there is literally in the world, and how, just studying more and more in the word about what God says about wealth, I really just gravitated towards that, because my childhood church, that my parents went to, um, they were, what's the way of saying, they I joined when I was 9, or I didn't join, my parents made me join
Yeah.
when I was 9 when I was 9 years old. um and I have always been pragmatic, and so that mindset when I was growing up was much more about being spiritual and dying to self in all things, that I that coupled with the poverty mindset, I think really um downplay what it is to have wealth, and that it was something wrong with me if I wanted it. and
Yes.
and
Yes. Yes,
and
girl.
so I had to grow like in education. I had to grow mentally. I had to grow spiritually to get to that point. I mean, it's been a road.
Well, I'm so glad that you kind of transitioned into that. I actually wanted to, I got to ask you something about faith and that conversation. But if you are listening to the podcast, I'm actually going to my Audible account right now. And if you're watching, you're seeing me do this. Dar'shun, I've read a book or listened to a book a while ago. Let me see if I can find the name of it. When you talked about the fact that wealthy people behave differently, my girlfriend Robin, who is going to be coming on in a couple of weeks, her business is called Behaving Wealthy because her
Mhm.
very thing is that there's a different way
Yep.
that people behave. So I read a book and it's called The Top 10 Distinctions Between Millionaires and the Middle Class. The
Mhm.
top 10 distinctions. And it just talks about how there is a different mindset. And for those of you who are listening to the conversation, if you just think about there is a difference that people who love God, how they behave versus people who don't love God. There's a difference between people who rep, I ain't gonna say which one, Dar'shun, people who rep which political organization, I mean, affiliation versus another. So it's the same way. You get into a different mindset when you deal with people, millionaires versus middle class. But you talked about faith, and I want to transition to that for a minute, or our walk with God, because I agree that there has been I hate to say this because this may not be fair, so I'm going to generalize it. In some ministry or some church world mindset, there's a gravitation toward being okay with little
Mhm.
and not aspiring to more. And I can understand it because I think part of the other issue with me, Dar'shun, when I talk about this conversation being uncomfortable, I'm gonna just tell you what it is and you give me your feedback. There is a self selfishness, or maybe it's not selfishness, like a everything is about money
Mhm.
that I believe certain people have, and I don't want to be that, right? I
Mhm.
don't want everything to be about money, but I think what has happened, you can sometimes go to the other
You're
side
right. Right.
And so let's talk about that. When you began to study the word, I remember one time you mentioned the scripture that we all love, that God gives us the power to gain wealth. So talk about how you had to transition your mindset about money and your relationship with God.
Yeah, so um one of the things that I love and I always credit my mom for, if you ever look at my Facebook posts, is that she instilled in me very, very early to never stop learning, never stop growing. I read books, I read podcasts, I listen to podcasts. I mean, I am a voracious, like I just love knowledge and reading.
Yes.
And so is through, reading books by people who are secular or people who are non-secular, and listening to what it is that was their journey to get them to where they are, or just listening to what it is that they say is some characteristics of millionaires, and then taking that information, right, and getting a good Bible study plan, or I'll
Yes.
I'll Google the mess out of something. Let me tell you something. I will
Yes.
Google the mess out of something and read
Yes.
it, and comparing it to make sure that it lines up with the
Yes.
Bible. Um, really taking some time, over the last 15 years to really just making sure that what is being put out there in the world matches up with what the world says, has been extremely, extremely helpful for me. And I think a lot of times, people, or what I do is, when I do take a look at books and take a look at scripture as well, I don't only focus on the scriptures that talk about money, because a lot of, reaching any goal, but particularly money goals, a lot of it has to do with like leadership. So
Mm.
like, for example, I'm going through the book of Esther right now. And even though it doesn't seem like it's necessarily a money topic, one of the things that I love about Esther is her risk taking that she took, and
Mm.
giving back and remembering where she came from, which, some people get real bougie, they make a lot of money and they never remember
Yes.
where they came from. And I
Yeah.
use those lessons to steer me, and to remind me that, once I do hit that millionaire or billionaire status, there's so much more that I can do with people that from the communities that I came from.
I love that. Okay, so I have a couple more questions. Okay, so I know that you are a part of a mastermind. What is the name of the mastermind? What's the heartbeat behind it? Tell me a little bit about it.
So the name of the mastermind is called I Square. It stands for Infinite Intelligence, and it comes from the Napoleon Hill book that is called um, Think and Grow Rich. There's
Yes.
a chapter 10 talks about masterminds. If you have not read it, read it. But there is also a book that I think is underrated by Napoleon Hill. I read it every single year,
Girl, what is? I'm gonna pull it
and
up on my Audible.
it is called Outwitting the Devil. And
What?
he has either an invisible, some people, historians debate whether he's actually having this conversation, or is it sort of a hypothetical conversation, but he has a conversation with Satan about how Satan deters people's dreams. And the number
Wow.
one way that he does that is he causes people to do what he calls drifting, which is not being intentional, waking up, not focused, not having any dreams or aspirations. And he goes through this whole book having this conversation with the devil, and the devil is like giving him all these secrets about how he keeps people down and keeps people from reaching their full potential. Is a fascinating, fascinating book. But one of the things that he mentions in the book is this thing called infinite intelligence that he equates to God. And so
Hmm.
the mastermind is called I Squared. And it's five of us in the group, me included, and our mission is 5 millionaires in 5 years. So we got 3 more years to go.
I love this. I knew it was the mission was 5 millionaires in 5 years. And what are y'all doing? Y'all are meeting weekly? Are y'all reading books together? Like, what is the heartbeat of it?
Yeah, so all of the above. So if you know me, you know that I do not like people who waste my time. And so
Yes.
um so it's a few things that we do. First of all, they have a signed contract. Of course they do.
Of
We
course
meet
they do.
weekly.
Because didn't you have a Facebook group that you wanted to do kind of a contract with it, like you wanted people to comment a few times a week or something?
Mhm. Yeah, it would that I think it's my Friends of Financial Freedom Facebook group. So I have a
Yes, yes,
free
yes, yes.
Facebook group, yeah, that people can join. It's 3,000 strong. So we put a lot of good tips into that Facebook group. But we meet Fridays at 6 a.m. in the morning. I'm up at 4, so I've
Yes.
gotten everybody on a schedule. So we meet Friday at 6 o'clock. If you're late, it's $10. We have a group me chat that you are required to post every day. If you don't, it's $1. We take an international trip. So we're going to Puerto Rico for a 3-day retreat or 4-day retreat in October. We meet quarterly where we focus on a particular subject. In May, we actually have a mental health provider to come in and talk about mental health and all the different things we got going on. So quarterly, we do very focused things. We do social events. So we're going to the Commerce Club to enjoy some jazz, I think the week after next. And so it's intentional around creating, you're the average of the 5 people you hang around the most. And it's
Yes.
creating a space where you're intentionally having to engage and to create this God-given power that each one of us shares towards a common goal. But if anybody reads chapter 10, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about because there's a whole section on masterminds. As a matter of fact, one of the things I'm going to do with my law firm, because so many people have asked me, is I'm going to come up with an online course about how to create your own mastermind. I think masterminds will revolutionize no matter what topic
Yes.
it is. It is
Yes.
so crucial to meeting your goal.
Absolutely. I've been in several, but I'm currently in one right now, um, where we are focusing on building our coaching or it's a long story. But anyway, I'm in one, so I understand the impact of it. Okay, I'm about to let you go. I do want to ask you this though. Your heartbeat is toward women, am I right? Women and wealth, or is it just generally wealth?
Particularly African Americans
Okay, Black
broadly,
folks.
because
Black folks and money.
we're so far behind. We're so
Absolutely. So the two questions I have for you, number one, when you talk about generating wealth, specifically, we know that that's much more than a 9 to 5. It's you're not generating wealth by just going to a 9 to 5.
right.
And I want those of you who are listening, you deserve generational wealth. Like when I'm gonna let you answer. When you say we're so far behind, what do you mean by that? Because there's some people out here who don't know why we're behind. When you say we're so far behind as Black folks, what does that mean?
That means in terms of the average income and the average wealth. Of course, there's a difference between income and wealth, and we're behind in both categories. Now, a lot of that is systematic. When you have enslaved people for 200 years, of course, the other
Yes.
party is going to be way, way ahead. But we still need to close that gap. So, for example, there was a Forbes article before the pandemic that said by 2030, the average Black household wealth was going to be 0. That's before the pandemic.
Wow.
It was 0 before the pandemic. And so
Wow.
now I don't even call it a wealth gap. When I'm talking to other groups, I call it a wealth canyon because the gap is like, the
Right.
canyon is like, uh,
Dar'shun, that is devastating.
yeah, it is. It is. And so we got a long way to go in terms of, there's still redlining going on with home ownership. African Americans get less capital, both in terms of loans and investors than any other group. We're highly, highly consumers. We spend about $1.4 trillion in consumer spending, whereas other nationalities just don't do consumer spending like that. So, part of my job is to show the path and try to get as many people to join this millionaire train as possible because it not only will affect our families for generational wealth, but it affects our communities. I mean, you First lady, let me tell you something. When I become a millionaire, you'll know because of my tithe check. Okay. That's what I'm
Amen.
saying. That's what
Amen.
I'm saying.
Amen. So this is okay. I'm about to share something when Dar'shun just talked about capital. I'm gonna share something, but I want to give you a chance to think about this answer. I want you to share. So the women who are listening to me are across the spectrum. There are women who are literally going to a 9 to 5. And so your conversation about wealth is so down the line for them. They're not even thinking about that. Then I have women who are listening who really could be navigating toward building wealth right now. They could really, they're in a different financial situation. So I want you to think about, you're talking to women, what are some 2 or 3 principles you just want us to walk away with, that would help shift our money mindset? 2 or 3 principles. And as you're thinking about that, when Dar'shun talks about African Americans and our lack of even capital, one of the things it makes me think about is my husband and I used to own a movie theater. And when we opened the movie theater, we were already behind the 8 ball because we didn't have any funding. We didn't have funding. We literally we didn't have any big capital. We had to ask people to contribute. But a counterpart, probably a white couple, opening a movie theater would have had generational wealth, that, or the bank would have loaned enough capital to give us wiggle room. So when we would hit roadblocks, we would be in the deficit because we didn't have any wiggle room. And so we started out already,
Right.
to your point, behind the 8 ball, because when you open a business, you're going to have roadblocks. So for example, Dar'shun, one day, I always give the number wrong, so I'm gonna say 16,000, but my husband's gonna probably correct me. But we were robbed one of our biggest nights, and they stole $16,000 from us. We never recovered because we didn't have any wiggle room for that kind of loss. So that's what we're talking about when we say this wealth canyon and being behind the 8 ball. But as we close, I want you to share with us, what are those 2 or 3 principles that you would give to women to help us begin to shift our money mindset?
Yeah, thank you again so much for letting me do this, because this is something I'm really really passionate about. So the first thing is, a little goes a long way. So a lot of times people will come to me and say, "Hey, I only have a 9 to 5 job. This is the amount of money that I make." And I think a lot of people think in order to start investing, you need like $25,000. You don't. No, you do need that for like private equity and venture capital and sort of on down the road complex private investments. But you can go to, I'm not going to give a name, but plenty of platforms that will allow
Yes.
you to invest small dollar amounts. And if you do not know the power of compound interest, I invite you to Google compound interest. Warren Buffett says it's the eighth wonder of the world. Read the book, The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. You can invest literally $1 today, let it sit for 40 years, and you'll be amazed how much money you have, because all it does is keep replicating on itself. So get started. If it's $5 and you need to skip Starbucks, or you need to, make a sandwich at home, it is well worth it. The second thing is, I try to get everyone to think about some type of passive income that they can have coming in, particularly in 9 to 5 jobs, particularly if you're African American, because the unemployment rate for African Americans, whatever Bloomberg number they give you, is double it for African Americans. They always give it to one, for normal Americans. It's much, much higher for African Americans. So try to get you some passive income. You can do that through real estate. You can do that through, collecting some funds and getting together with some friends to invest in something. Like a franchising is probably different
Less
for
passive,
nine
yeah.
to, yeah, for 9 to 5 people, but there are ways to get passive income. As a matter of fact, if you get with a good financial advisor, I have a financial advisor, even though I am a financial advisor, and he has gotten me into some dividend producing public stocks. So I invest in the private stock market as a advisor, investor, but also in public markets. And what happens is, if you get into a dividend stock, then every quarter they send you a dividend check. So That's
Mm-hmm.
one way to get some passive income. And then the third way is to really look into ways that you can make use of the 9 to 5. And when I say that, it depends on the company, but I have friends who have 9 to 5 jobs. And not only should you be sharpening your skills while you're on the 9 to 5 job and absorbing all that knowledge, but there are a lot of companies that will pay for you to get a higher degree or pay for you to take courses or pay for you to do this and that. So really look into your corporation and see what benefits they offer. Just go to
I
HR
love that.
and say, hey, what type of benefits are you offering? I mean, I've had companies, well, they'll pay for your master's. I mean, come on.
Yes,
And
yes, I love that.
that saves you a lot in student loans. And then the fourth one, even though you didn't ask for, so
No, it's fine. Uh-huh.
the fourth one is to try to eliminate as much debt as possible, because just like compounding works with the $1 saving, it also works in the opposite with debt. So it debt
Yes,
compounds. So try to
yes,
get rid of debt as much as possible, and try to get your particularly consumer debt, so like credit card debt and student loans. So I was able to get my student loans forgiven in 2023 to the tune of $180,000. So
girl.
look into debt to getting rid of your student loans. There's still a lot of people that still don't know their student loan. I didn't know for 4 years that I could have had my student loan debt forgiven. Sometimes it's just about
Girl.
asking.
Girl, we on the website yesterday, like Biden, which of these do we apply for? Do we apply for? That is so good. I knew that this conversation was going to be really, I've had some personal ahas for myself. I know that other people have too. Before you go, how can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more or if they want to connect with you, maybe join the Facebook group? How do they connect with you?
So a few ways. So you can connect with me on the Friends of Financial Freedom Facebook group. So just type into the search Friends of Financial Freedom. We are going strong, and we have bi-monthly in-person meetups, and we do an annual conference. So connect with other like-minded people on there. The second way is you can follow me on social media. It's just at Dar'shun Kendricks, and I usually try to answer as much inboxes as I can, particularly on LinkedIn. My law firm website is Kairos Legal Advisors. So Kairos, Kairos, Kairos legaladvisors.com. And you can connect with me next Wednesday at 7 p.m. My financial advisor from Northwest Mutual is going to be hosting a free webinar that I am going to be co-hosting with him, specifically geared towards those who are entrepreneurs or thinking to get into entrepreneurship, really to make sure that they're set up personally and financially, and to give them some tips so that they can start out from the outset or start from the time that we give them the advice about how to navigate this financial, the financial predictions that we have, and some products and things, services they should be thinking about. So you can find that on the Kairos Legal Advisors under the event section, and sign up for that. And we're going to have a great discussion to make sure you personally protect your personal finances and your business.
So I love that. So if you're watching this real time, that would be April 17th. Am I correct?
April 17th at 7
April
p.m.
17th. If you're watching this real time, you can find it there. And if you're watching this after that, just make sure you go to her website, because I'm sure she'll have some more events. So that'll be April 17th if you're watching this real time. Dar'shun, thank you for being with me. I appreciate and love you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, I won't be at church because I'll be at a wedding, but
That's okay. You get a written excuse from the First Lady.
Thank you. Thank you. I
I'll see
appreciate
you
it. Thank you
later.
so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, friend, listen, I'm super excited that you listened to this episode of Intentional Conversations with Robin May and Friends. But before you go, did you know that my book, Before You Take His Name, is officially available for you to purchase? Just head over to robinmayonline.com/shop books. RobinMayOnline.com/shop books. Before you take his name, gives Christian women 14 questions that you should ask before you say I do. But here's the thing. The book is actually best for those who may be casually dating, or girl, even if you're not dating at all. This is the time to read the book because it will allow you to set a healthy a healthy a healthy foundation when you start to get serious about somebody that just may be the one. So if you haven't already, head over to robinmayonline.com/shop books, or if you're watching this on YouTube, it's right in the description of this video. If you're watching this on your favorite podcast app, you can find it in the show notes. Or if you're following me on Instagram, you can head over to Robin May Online and click the link in my bio. Listen, girl, if you're married, will you go ahead and order it for one of your single girlfriends? Tell them I told you to send it to them. Again, Before You Take His Name is available for purchase. Go grab your copy.